The unbeaten teams have fallen in the NFL. Congratulations to the 1972 Miami Dolphins. They are popping champagne. They are celebrating. This is Overtime Operators, the show where we talk about how to make money in sports. I'm John. That's Casey. And that's Daps down below us. Daps, how does this last weekend affect your the Super Bowl betting odds? Let's get right into it and let's talk about if you're taking those long bets on Super Bowls. Here's how it's shaken out. Here's how it's updated. So just reading this off for you, we still have San Francisco. We have the 49ers, still the favorites at plus 430 there. We have Kansas City at plus 500, Philadelphia at plus 750, Buffalo at plus 900, Miami at plus 1,000, Dallas at plus 1,100. And then the Lions and the Ravens sort of sneaking into that top tier with a plus 1,400 and a plus 1,500. That kind of ends the top tier. Daps, what do you see here? After this last weekend, does it change what you're thinking in terms of season-long view?
I don't think so. I'm just happy that there's no unbeaten teams because I think the media reaction to the Niners last week, and they're so incredible and they're so much better than everybody else. And it doesn't matter who it is. If you're undefeated, you get that type of treatment until you lose a game. And, you know, the Niners lost in a pretty ugly way. I think that there were a number of factors going in, by the way, of why they lost. They missed a kick that they should have hit, so they should have won the game. Ayuk dropped I think a 70-yard touchdown, and then Purdy gets criticized for it, which I find, very, very interesting how the media, flips on people, especially quarterbacks right away. And listen, the quarterback, obviously, they're going to get the blame or they're going to get the reward, the high praise. But listen, the Browns proved that any given Sunday, right? Niners just lost. Eagles just lost to the Jets, right? The Jets had no business beating the Eagles. But these teams are not that good, right? None of these teams are that good. And everybody's beatable on any given day. Nobody factors in injuries. Obviously, you saw Debo and Christian both get hurt in the same game. I still think the Niners should have won. You still have Kittle, right? You still have the backup running back. Mason came in. He looked good. Shanahan's offense and his schemes are really what fuels the whole offense. I mean, that offense is like plug and play. They've had 3 different quarterbacks the last couple of years between Garoppolo and Trey Lance and Purdy. And, it's kind of just ran no matter who's in it. With Purdy in it, it's run a lot better. And obviously they upgraded Christian. But in terms of the outright betting Super Bowl odds at the moment, I don't know how you could have the Niners above the Chiefs just because I don't think the Niners have proven that they're better than Mahomes. I don't think anybody in this league has proven they're better than Mahomes. In my mind, he's the clear-cut number one. There was some talk in the media, too, about, the Niners lost Debo and Christian in the middle of the game. Remember, Chiefs lost to the Lions this year, but they didn't have Kelsey or Chris Jones, who are their number 2 and 3 ranked players. So I don't think I see these odds slightly changing, but week to week, I think the Lions' value at plus 1,400 is very, very appealing.
Really? See, I was going to say I actually don't love that who I see as a good value bet. Look, the Niners, I still like them to win. I like the Chiefs. I don't love taking any team against the field at only plus 400, plus 500. It just is like against the field that just isn't good enough odds, but I like the Dolphins at plus 1,000. Plus 1,000 feels like a good value bet on the Dolphins. Give me that 1,000 or 10 to 1 odd, basically. Casey, what are you thinking here? Is this week changed your view? Obviously not. I know that you're, definitely biased here. You'd probably still take the Niners to win, but would you really at only plus 430?
Well, we're all biased, John. That's the reality of the situation.
Right.
Nobody is without it. But I agree with a lot of what Dap said. And I actually, for what it's worth, I do kind of agree that one of the ripest for the plucking might be the Lions at plus 1,400 there. That one does jump out at me big time. If I were betting just for a favorite, that's where I think we would probably disagree still. It is a very solid point that Debo and CMC go down for the Niners. Therefore they lose, similar to the Chiefs situation. As I remember, though, the Chiefs got to game plan around not having their guys, whereas the Niners dropped during the game, which is a little bit of a different situation. Now, does that matter? I mean, are the Niners going to have Debo and CMC all the way through a long playoff push and a playoff run all the way through the Super Bowl? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that might be the difference, is like if they enter that game without those guys, knowing that they don't have them available, how much does the game plan change, and does that game flow change? Because they were trying to play a nitty gritty, dirty game. And sometimes you get caught up, especially when you lose your two best runners of the football. So they might have tried a subtly different game plan there. So those are clearly the two top teams in my mind, though. And I agree. The Lions are probably maybe the best value here.
So that's interesting because we have the Lions at plus 1,400, Ravens at plus 1,500. Those two facing off this week with the Ravens as a 2.5 point favorite. Neither of you guys like the Ravens at plus 1,500, which is essentially the same as the Lions at plus 1,400. So a little foreshadowing of how you would bet this week, maybe.
Feels like the Lions have an opportunity to keep up with any team when they're at their best. And I don't know that we've just seen that version of the Ravens where they can put up 40, especially against a good team.
Right. Yeah. No, I think I think we can move on. Let's get into week 6 betting here. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I will say, if you're actually trying to make money betting, I'm not a big fan of betting Super Bowl at this point in the season, because you just don't get those juicy odds, right? Like you bet preseason, you might get plus 2,500. It's like, okay, fine, take a flyer. But if you're going to bet Chiefs, at this point in the season at only plus 500, it's just not juicy enough to really make it kind of worth the squeeze, in my opinion. Even the Lions at plus 1,400, you're taking a pretty big flyer on the Lions. If push comes to shove, probably neither of you guys actually think the Lions will win the Super Bowl, right?
They wouldn't be my odds,
yeah,
everything being equal, my favorite. No.
Yeah. So that's what I mean.
I mean, at this current moment, in my head as we're talking right now, I'm going, it might be an interesting bet. Put in $500 on the Chiefs and $500 on the Lions. So if the Lions win, there's a tremendous upside, and then if the stable Chiefs, who I believe, really have to not play well or get injured to not win again, to repeat. I don't think anybody's going to beat them when Mahomes is in sync. I really like that. I think the Lions prove they can beat a team like the Chiefs, right? So they kept it together. Their defense is solid. Goff is playing not like traditional Goff. Their running game is elite. They really have like the total package when it comes to, a well-rounded team. So if the Lions won the Super Bowl, I would not be surprised. And that's also to say, like, the Eagles and the Niners just showed you there's no team that can't be beaten in the NFC. Now every team can be beaten, and they have been beaten. So if the Lions win the Super Bowl, am I surprised? No.
Right. Yeah. It's a good point. So I think let's jump into week 6 bets. I know you have our power rankings pulled up, Casey. Let's circle back to that if we have time, because we have tended to take a long time on bets, and I want to make the show efficient. I don't know if you have our betting tracker pulled up. There we go. Cool. So do you want to recap week 6 really quick? So our format here, and let's use week 6 just to say the format. The format here is we essentially have to say, we have to bet the game, right? So we can bet the money line, we can bet the spread, or we can bet the over under, but we've got to place a bet on every game. Now we can casually say, hey, I would stay entirely out of this or whatever. But just for the sake of kind of hitting on every matchup, and, if you really feel the need to bet like the nastiest, dirtiest game in the league, we'll give you our take on it. So that's kind of the format here. Looks like last week we did pretty well. Had a decent win-loss week.
Yeah, last week, I believe Daps, some technical difficulties happened, so you fell off in the middle of this segment last week. We didn't get you a chance to finish up, but John and I finished at 10-5, and we know Daps would have turned it around on the rest of the games coming up. I think we started out pretty sour ourselves, John. So
yeah, the other thing that we're not doing here is we're not weighting these at all and saying like, hey, here's where I put a lot of my money or anything. So 10-5, you could win money, you could lose money. I think in my actual bets this last weekend, I bet 4, I went 2-2, and I lost a bunch of money. Whereas some weeks I go 2-2 and I win money because my two highest confidence bets, which were the Eagles and the Niners, both lost.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this week, and let's start with Jaguars versus Saints. Can you give me one zoom on that, Casey?
Sure, why not? There you go.
Jaguars versus Saints. Saints are a 1-point favorite over the Jags. Money line on this is pretty insignificant. So we basically have minus or plus 100 for the Saints and minus 120 for the Jaguars. Basically, you're betting the winner here. And I mean, I guess if you want to bet Jags, you could take the money line. And that's what I'm going to do. I kind of like the Jags to win. I think a 1-point spread is pretty insignificant. I kind of just like them to win. I don't need the points. Give me the Jaguars on the money line.
Interesting strategy there, John.
And this is assuming no major, like, because I think we had Trevor Lawrence on like a pseudo injury last week. You know, who knows if he's going to be playing or whatever. But yeah, I mean, assuming nothing like that happens, I do like the Jaguars on the money line there. So I think this is the first money line we've taken since like week 1.
Yeah. All right. John wants the money line on the Jags. All right.
Daps, to you, what do you like in this game?
I'd probably go Saints only because from what I've read, Lawrence hurt his knee. So
yeah,
he's either going to play hurt or he's not going to play. So I'll probably take the Saints. I know they had a kind of rough loss to the Texans. They are on a 2-game road trip. They split it. They dominated the Patriots and then lose to the Texans. I'll go Saints at home against the Jags.
So I will add a little context here and say this is actually one of the games I would consider placing real money on, but I'd be watching the Lawrence situation closely. And, you know, if he was not playing, then I would stay out of it entirely. If there were reports like his knee's not doing great, you know, then I would probably stay out of it then. But, you know, and I would make adjustments based on whether the spread and money line move as well. But as it stands right now, assuming Lawrence is going to play and that knee injury is relatively insignificant, I'm going Jags on the money line. Casey.
Yeah, this one's tough. Basically close enough to a pick 'em. These teams, kind of middling teams, both show an ability to kind of break out and have good performances, and also have shown the ability to flounder, which makes this game really hard to bet. I would actually tend to steer away from this one if it were me. Oh, yeah. But I mean, I'll go ahead and I'll take the Jags, but I'll take the free point there, I suppose.
You want the point, huh?
I mean, why not? Just give
you
it
want
to
that
me,
one
right?
point.
Like, give me that free point.
Yeah, you're a low floor. You're a watch your floor better, right? Like, I don't think you'd ever take a positive money line.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if we'll ever see Casey take a positive money line.
We'll see.
You'll take the negative ones, but I get it though. So I will say one more thing on this one. Over under of 40 feels real high on this. So if I were to take a secondary, if I don't like anything here, I feel like that 40 feels a little high to me. Both these teams not really putting up, Saints especially, haven't been putting up big scoring numbers.
If you got a limping QB with something kind of nagging at him, I do see it this way too. This kind of game could end up being. Could hit the under.
Yep. All right. Next up, Raiders Bears. I'll kick this one to you first, Casey. I don't have spread here, but
whoops! Looks like I forgot to add that one.
I actually do real quick. I can look at it as well.
Raiders at Bears. Raiders are 3-point favorites.
Raiders 3-point favorites over the Bears. What do you like here, Casey?
Well, the Bears kind of screwed me colossally last week, you know, off 2 really good performances the weeks prior. Looked like they were turning that ship around. I don't know what to think about Chicago anymore.
That's your fault for being so low on the Vikings, my guy.
I guess so, but I mean, the Vikings didn't look great either. Sans JJ. But this one, I'm going to go ahead and this one also feels like a low scoring affair. Maybe they'll bust out and ruin my predictions here, but I'm just going to take the under and just kind of stay away from any prediction that involves either of these teams winning. They might just like tie at 7 apiece or something. So let's just hit the under here. That'll be Casey's official bet.
Guessing that Jimmy Garoppolo will not be playing. He was taken off the field in an ambulance. Seems crazy to me that he would be playing a week later.
I mean, Jimmy has been known to have a flair for the dramatic, but yeah, I agree.
I mean, he's getting into a career in the movies after this, in the movie than those moving pictures. I don't know. So I don't love any of these teams winning, but I don't like the under at 38, and I don't like the over. I don't like anything about this game.
That means the books got it right? I mean, if nothing feels
that
good.
is what it is, right? If the books, if you don't like anything, that means the books kind of got it right, and maybe you should stay away from it.
Well, I mean, it goes the whole
Raiders are
home team typically gets about a 3 points worth on the spread, right? So
Right.
does that change your opinion at all? That
Raiders.
they're giving the Bears some?
Raiders. What's the money line here? So Raiders at minus 155.
Just 55, I think. Is that right? I'll
It would
double-check
be
that.
it would be minus 155.
Yeah, that would make more
We'll
sense.
bet 100 yeah.
Typo. Typo on my part. You know,
all
it's
good.
just 2 matchups in, 2 typos. No big deal, you guys.
No
Here we
big
go.
deal. Yeah. So I think I like the Raiders to win, assuming Jimmy plays and can move. I mean, because it was his like back or something. So assuming Jimmy plays and can move, I think the Raiders can beat the Bears. I know that the Bears have won some games, but I'm still not impressed. And I saw through the hype last week. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with my anti-Bears position and go Raiders on the money line, and I'll bet a little bit. I'll bet a little extra to lose to win a little less. All right, Daps, Raiders 3-point favorites over the Bears. What do you like here?
I'm going to go Raiders -3 in the under. Whether Jimmy plays or not, the Bears are going to have their backup in. Fields isn't playing. They're banged up at running back. I don't know what the Bears are doing as a franchise. So.
I did not know that the Bears that Fields wasn't playing, so that's just on me for not being up on it. I do kind of like the under a little bit more then, but I still like the Raiders on the money line. That's fine with me.
Also, I don't know if I was supposed to pick one, either the over, under, or the spread, but
you have to bet at least one thing. But if you like a lot of stuff here,
Right.
you can put
got it.
All right, cool. So next up, we got Browns 2-point favorites over the Colts, coming off a hot win, a steaming hot win over the Niners. Money line here is minus 125 for the Browns, plus 105 for the Colts. Over under of 39 points. Daps, what do you like in this game?
I don't know if Watson's playing or not. If Watson's playing, I'm going Browns -2 all day. And I'd probably do it in the over because I think the Browns can score points. I think the Colts offense can move the ball. They've got, Moss and Jonathan Taylor now. They have a couple solid receivers. Downs is coming into his own. Pittman. Minshew is not that bad. Probably one of the best backups in the league. So I'd probably go over and Browns -2.
Okay.
So which one do you
Casey?
want on the books?
Yeah.
Let's put the over on the books.
Gotcha.
You like the over on 39. Okay.
I like that. A little push comes to shove. Take the over action. Man, you know what? I mean, this is very soon. This is very soon after suffering a loss at the hands of the PJ Walker-led Cleveland Browns. So I guess to build off of what Daps was saying, maybe I don't even care if Deshaun Watson plays. We assume they're a better team with Watson under center, but I mean, they be arguably the best team in the league. A top 3 team, I think, no matter how you argue it. Last week with an XFL quarterback. I guess that's the antidote for playing Mr. Irrelevant is just grab a guy out of the XFL because at this point it's just
we'll get someone even more irrelevant.
Yeah. They don't even call him anything. It's just he used to play in the XFL. I was laughing in the first quarter and crying by the fourth quarter. So I'm not making the same mistake again. I think the Browns go into Indy and they do what they did. They got a great defense. Gardner Minshew is going to have a hell of a test.
You're okay with the points. You don't care about those 2 points. Yeah. I don't think I would take. I think the 2 points are relatively insignificant. The Browns are one of those dirty win kind of teams. I'm trying to look at so they've only had one game this year hit the over on 39 points. It's like they either win big, like they held the Bengals to 3 points, they held the Titans to 3 points, or they lose big, like they only got 3 points against the Ravens. Browns Steelers, that was the only time. It was 26-22. So the Browns are such a weird team because they'll give you a 28-3 loss against the Ravens, and then they'll give you a 19-17 win over the Niners the next freaking week. I don't know what to do with this team. I would not get in on them either way, but if I have to, I'm going to take the hot streak and bet the spread with you, Casey, and go Browns. And I don't care about those 2 points.
I like it.
All right, next up, we got Bills, Patriots. Bills, 9-point favorites over the Patriots. I'll start here. I like the over on 42. That's what I got to go with here. And honestly, it's like the Bills will need to score 35 of those 42 or more, because the Patriots might get 2 field goals and that might be it. But I like the over on 42. -9 is just enough to make me nervous. So the Bills are 9-point favorites, and the money line is -400 for the Bills, +310 for the Pats. I don't love the money line because there's like a random chance that they could lose. They should have lost to the Giants. There was a pretty bad no call, in my opinion, on that last play. And also clock mismanagement at the end of the first half by the Giants. So, I mean, I think the Bills look good some weeks and they don't look good some weeks, and they're definitely the kind of team that could lose to the Patriots. So I don't want to bet them to win, but I'll take the over, because if the Patriots do beat them, they're going to have to score some points. Dax,
all right.
What do you think here? Oh, go ahead, Casey.
Okay. Yeah, you know what we've been hearing all week about the Bills or all week since they've played, is that they play down to their competition or up to their competition, right? They're just in close games a ton, right? So yeah, the 9-point spread, even though it's against the lowly Patriots, who look as lost as we've ever seen them. If you're around our age, you know, if you're in your 30s, you've never seen a Patriots team this bad, and that does scare me a little bit. For the sake of the game within the game of betting that we play here, where we're making a stance on every game out there this week, I'm going to take the money line on the Bills, but I would not recommend necessarily betting that way. But this would be one I just run away from this matchup entirely. I wouldn't bet anything on this one. The Bills, I think, are going to win, but I think they're going to make it closer than it needs to be. If I was forced to, maybe I would take the spread if I wanted to actually win some money. But for the sake of this game,
that's a good point.
I want to be right on as many bets as possible. So
I get what you're saying. So like I wouldn't bet this game at all. If I had to bet something, it's like, yeah, give me the money line on the Bills, and I don't care. Daps, what do you think here? Like now that I heard your logic, I kind of want to switch, but I already locked in. I'm not going to do that. Go ahead, Daps.
I'm gonna go Bills -9. I just can't imagine 3 weeks in a row the Bills don't show up, because they didn't show up last week against the Giants, although they pulled it out, and they didn't show up against the Jags. Now, granted, that was in London, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Say, you know, you're traveling all the way to Europe, you're a little bit out of sync, and then you got to travel back from Europe, you know, for the next game. So 2 games in a row with that travel could you know, affect you a little bit. Now you've been in the States. You know, you're going to New England from Buffalo, not that bad of a trip. You've played there, you know, every year you play there. So
yeah,
it should feel somewhat familiar, and the Patriots look really bad.
John, if it makes you feel better, after you heard me say my piece, you were like 50-50 in on your original take and my take. And I feel the same way about mine and Daps's, actually. So we just kind of kept pushing people further and further. Like, go bet the spread on the Bills.
The Bills make that 9 points. I'm like, man, that's like, yeah, that. They've really only had one game where they've beat a spread like that, and that was the Dolphins of all games. So yeah, and I mean, both their losses are to teams they shouldn't have lost to. So we got the Jets and we got the, I guess they've only had one loss maybe, because I'm counting last week against the Giants as a loss because they should have lost.
Yeah, it was a relatively poor.
No, they lost to the Jags. They're
4-2.
Yeah. Okay, so. Next up, we got Commanders. My 2-point favorites over the Giants. Money line on this is -125 for the Commanders, +105 for the Giants. Over under at 40. Yeah, Casey, you go first here, because I have no idea what to do with the Commanders. Like, They're another team that's like all over the freaking place.
Yeah, and this just comes down to personal preference, I think. I'll try to make a case for it that's fairly objective, but you know, you come into the season just feeling a certain way about certain teams, and the teams in the middle, those are the ones that people are split on. I think both of these teams qualify as that. Coming in, you know, some people are in, some people are out on the Commanders. Same thing with the Giants. It's not very one-sided. It's just very torn. I came into the season generally in on the Commanders against expectation and generally down against the Giants against expectation. And that's the way I kind of see it here. It has flipped from the Giants being the playoff team last year that looked like they could kind of change everything with Vanilla Vic and have this like bust out offense with Darren Waller as the big addition. None of that has come to fruition. The Commanders have looked worse than I expected, but they at least have a little bit of something going. And for that reason, I'm taking the Commanders here against the spread. That's the bet I like the best here for a little upside,
right.
I suppose.
Daps to you.
I'm going to go under.
You like the under on 40. I kind of like
the Giants.
Like
the Giants have scored 0, 28, 12, 3, 16, 9.
The Giants have not had an offensive touchdown this year, which is why I'm also taking the under.
That feels impossible.
That's crazy talk, right? I will say this. I actually think Tyrod Taylor's not too bad. Seems like a solid backup. He does a little less than Dan Jones, but he also seems to have a little bit higher floor. Some bad clock management at the end of the half. I think it's partially offensive coordinators to blame. So if you weren't watching the Giants game on Sunday night, they had 14 seconds left on the 1 yard line. There was a run pass option. They usually like they always do. They're going to call a run pass option. And he called the run option at the line, which basically they got stopped on the 1 and then the clock ran out. It's like it was first down. They had 3 plays. They should have passed the ball 3 times. Maybe ran on the last one. So yeah, bad clock management there. They could have scored, but yeah, Giants have not been in the end zone at all on offense.
I want to clarify that's in the first half.
Yeah, it was at the end of the first half. At the end of the second half, they just got a bad call. That didn't go their way.
That's the stat.
So
the stat is they haven't scored an offensive touchdown in the first half.
Oh, they haven't. They have scored one in the second half.
They've only scored a touchdown. They've only scored a touchdown on offense in one game. That was against Arizona. Outside of that, they have not scored a touchdown in any game. So the Giants have not scored.
Yeah.
They have not scored a touchdown in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. The Giants have not scored a touchdown in any game against the Niners, Seahawks, Miami, and Buffalo. And they've scored a touchdown on defense against Miami, but everything else has been field goals. And that even that, though, is crazy to think.
Yeah.
The Giants have not scored a touchdown in 12 quarters or 16 quarters. That's crazy.
Yeah, for that reason. And the Commanders have had some breakouts. Like they did beat the Bears 40-20 or whatever. Or no, the Bears beat them 40-20. Jeez, the Bears are weird too. Yeah, I don't know. I like the under at 40 points as well. I don't see the Giants scoring 20. And I don't see the Commanders scoring like 30, So give me the under as well.
I think we all got that one right, boys. I like all the bets all the way around there. Everything feels safe. All right, next one up, Falcons at Bucks. The Bucks are 2.5-point favorites at home here. Who wants to take this one first? How about you, Daps? You look hungry for it.
I'm going to go Bucks at home -2.5. I think this is also the part of the season where home field advantage really starts to set in because you're 6 weeks into the season. A lot of teams have got their feet on the ground and they kind of know who they are, but also teams don't just lay down, right? There's teams that are 3-3 or 2-4, and everyone's like, oh, this team's not good. They're not going to make the playoffs. And then they turn it around because remember, guys, we're only, 30% done with the season so far. We're 33% done. So there's going to be a lot of teams that win home games, a lot that aren't supposed to win. I think you just saw it with both the Browns and the Jets last week, right? Not supposed to win. Both teams are at home. They pull it out. So the Bucs have been pretty solid this year. I don't think the Falcons are that good. Outside of last week, they played the Lions, who look like one of the strongest teams in the league. I'm going to go Bucs at home.
Yeah, I'll jump in next here. I think the Falcons represent something pretty special in the NFL. If there was a team that I had to label as the perfect line for are you a good team or are you a bad team, the Falcons are just like, if you beat them, you're by a razor thin margin, maybe a good team.
Yeah.
If you lose to them, you're typically a bad team. And I do think this could be a close game. Who knows? It's interdivision rivals, right? They're vying for the top spot, right? Like one of these teams is likely to go to the playoffs, which could blow some people's minds. But I do see the Bucks as the better team here, the more complete team. They can get the passing game going at least, whereas the Falcons really struggle to do that. Falcons a dominant running team in their best form, and they can eat up a lot of clock. That's why they win more games than it seems like they should be able to. I think the Bucks are just a good enough team to win out here, and I think that they will ultimately be the team to move on to the playoffs from this division. The 2.5 points don't scare me at all. I'm riding with Daps. Give me the Bucks spread.
Here's a litmus test for that, Casey. Panthers, good team, bad team.
I'd say bad team.
Packers, good team, bad team.
Ooh, I'd say that's another great line team, but
one point difference between them and the Falcons.
Yeah, bad team.
Yeah. Lions, good team, bad team.
Good team.
Jaguars, good team, bad team.
Barely, but good team, maybe.
I mean, they beat them by 2 scores, or 2 touchdowns. Well, not quite 2. Yeah, just over 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, in London, right?
Texans.
Okay, in London, great team.
Texans, good team, bad team.
Yet to be seen, but maybe a good team.
Yeah, they did lose to the Falcons. Commanders, good team, bad team.
Probably bad team here. Yeah.
They did beat the Falcons.
Yeah.
The Commanders are trap game. Like
For
they're
sure.
hard to know what to do with. I like the Bucks as well. The Bucks have played really well this year. Honestly, what are they? 4-2.
Look at this, gentlemen.
Yeah,
This never happens.
Yeah, I got the Bucks. They beat the Vikings, beat the Bears, lost to the Eagles, beat the Saints, lost to the Lions. I mean, we got 2 losses to the Lions and the Eagles that are both in, probably at the top, toward the top 3 of their division. So I like the Bucks here. I think they're a good team. Give me the spread. I don't care about the 2.5 points.
That puts all 3 of us on the Bucks spread bet. So you know what that means, listeners. Go bet the Falcons to cover because
I actually this would be a game that I would actually put Bucks.
Yeah.
Bucks 2.5. I might put a little money on that.
No, I think this is a little foreshadowing into our lock of the week in the newsletter to come out in another day, I suppose, from this going up public. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. How about that? Ryans at Ravens.
The Ryans at Ravens. Lions at Ravens. Ravens 2.5 point favorites over the Lions. Money line plus 115 on the Lions, minus 170 on the Ravens. Over under on this game 42.5 points. Casey, what do you like?
There's just something we always do on this show and on our other show as well. I don't know what it is, but I just can't help but bet against the Ravens. I like the Lions. We talked about them quite a bit at the top of the episode.
Yeah.
The Lions, I think, are going to continue to do what they've been doing. The Ravens are another one of those teams that you don't know which version you're going to get on a weekly basis. Those teams are all making me feel very iffy. And I don't know, there's something comforting about it. And, even if I lose, I bet on the team that seemed more stable at the time. That doesn't make your money come back if you went that way. But certainly ahead of time, it feels like the more confident place for me to put my money. So that's the way I go on this one is Lions. I think they cover here.
Daps, what do you think here?
As much as I like the Lions, just sticking to the theme of the week, I'm going to go home teams. I'm just going to bet on home teams in the middle of the season. I just like the way they play at home. Like I said, I think that this is where home field advantage really starts to show is week 6, week 7, week 8, right? And then even it'll last until the end of the season, right? It just gets harder and harder to win on the road in the NFL, I believe. And these are 2 really good teams. The Lions lost Montgomery last week. I know he didn't play majority of the game, so they still won without him. The Ravens have a way better offense than Tampa, even though they're super inconsistent. But the Ravens, that's who they are. They're inconsistent. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. I'll take the Ravens at home.
Lions, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a 5-1 team with 1 loss in overtime to the Seahawks, who are fine. The problem is we've got one really test of a win over the Chiefs in week 1, and that's week 1. Anything can happen. Since then, it's wins over the Falcons, Packers, Panthers, and the Bucks. We just got done saying that the Bucks are pretty good. And that's the only test they've really had. the Ravens seem like the first, like, okay, now we're in the middle of the season. It's not week 1 anymore. Like, what can you really do? 42.5. I kind of like the look of that under on 42.5 because I do think the Lions can put up numbers. No, give me the Lions and give me the 2.5 points. I think the Lions are going to win, and the fact that we get 2.5 points, that just puts me over the edge there, right? So I do think the Lions are going to beat the Ravens, and I think the 2.5 points just tips me over. I probably wouldn't put money on it, but it'd be a borderliner for me.
Interesting. All right, next game up. Cards at Seahawks. Seahawks 8-point favorites at home. Who wants it first here?
I'll go first here. So Cards at Seahawks 8-point favorites. Over under of 46 points. Both these teams have been putting up points. So we're talking about 23 points per team here. It's a divisional game. If I have to bet something here, I'm going to bet the Seahawks on the money line, and I'm just going to not make very much. I would stay out of this game, honestly, because the Cardinals do seem like a bit of a trap. But I think the Seahawks will win. I don't like the 8 points, so I would just put a little bit of money on the Cardinal or on the Seahawks money line. It's not exciting. It's unsexy, but that's what I would do. What do you think, Casey?
I think that's definitely a way to go. And for the sake of this game, I am actually just going to ride with you, I think, on that one, John. I would say that if you...
Daps never does that, though, so he's more exciting. He rarely does, like, a negative money line bet.
If I were forced to bet something else, I think I'd go with the points to hit the under maybe here.
Really?
It feels right. Coming off of last week, our betting, any game that just felt kind of gross or that like the game script could turn into like the better team comes out early, which I think is the Seahawks, and they have the ability to run the ball. I could see the score not getting out of hand, just this kind of the clock running most of the game. The Cardinals are a good team to like battle back, but I don't think they'll win. So how many points they're really going to score in that like comeback? I think it'll hit the under on 46, but I'll stick with you on moneyline Seahawks.
What do you think here, Daps?
I like the under.
Yeah,
I like the under. The Cardinals kind of started off hot with an offense, and I think maybe the coaches got enough tape on Dobbs, and now they're figuring him out and they're making his life difficult. I don't think the Seahawks are too like pass happy, even though they have Metcalf and they have Lockett. I think they're a run first team, and if they do go up early, they're just going to run the ball. So
it's tough to beat. It's tough to beat the Seahawks in Seattle. Speaking to your point on home teams, that's one of the even harder, in the league, one of the harder division or stadiums to play in. All right, next up we got Packers 1-point favorites over the Broncos. Money line on this is -120 to the Broncos, +100 to the Packers. So if you're going to bet Packers, might as well just take the spread, or I guess you could just take the money line, right, and just take the +100, and that way you win, even if they only win by 1 point. So over under of 44.5 points. Casey, you go.
I'm going to take the under in this one. This is a better example of what I just explained up above, feeling like a gross game. Neither of these teams, even at their best, seem that great. It seems like a challenge for them each to put up, around 3 touchdowns, or for the winner to put up more like 4. That's what it would need to be to hit 45 on the over here. So I'm going to definitely take the under with confidence, and I would probably make this one a part of a betting portfolio for this week for sure.
I would take the under with you, and I would maybe make this one a part of a betting portfolio as well. My secondary bet here, if I had to make one, would be the Packers on the money line, just because there's no reason to bet the spread if you're going to bet Packers with a +100 money line. Go ahead, Daps.
I wanted to bring this up earlier, and then we kind of got cut off. Where are we at in the tanking of the season for Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah.
So
real.
I don't know. I mean, you've got the Patriots at 1-5, the Broncos at 1-5. You have the Giants, Bears, Cardinals at 1-5, and then the Panthers at 0-6. But the Panthers are interesting because are they going to take Caleb Williams after they took Bryce Young?
Not a chance.
The smart move is probably you should do that, because they're literally comparing this kid to Mahomes, which I think is stupid. But My next question is, can you get a first round pick for Bryce Young? Like, hey, I'll give you Bryce Young for a 2026 first round pick. I don't know, but then you trade your first round pick in a couple of years, or you trade for it rather, get rid of Bryce Young, and then you tank right now. So in the event that the Broncos are tanking and Sean Payton says, I don't like Russ Wilson, what is the reason to win? What is the reason to win? And also, you're 1-5 right now. What do you have to prove? You're not going to make the playoffs in this position. I mean, let's kind of talk it out. The seventh team as it stands right now, the playoff picture would be the Cleveland Browns at 3-2. So, okay, you're only 2 games out of the playoffs technically right now. But you're in a division with the Chargers and Mahomes. And the Chargers, by the way, they only have 1 more win than the Broncos. So we can even scratch the Chargers. You're in a division with Mahomes, we'll just say. Now, looking at the schedule, I'm going to defend the Broncos too, because they lost by 1 point to the Raiders week 1. They lost by 2 points to the Commanders week 2. They get blown out in Miami. They beat the Bears by 3. They lose to the Jets by 10. And then somehow they only lose to the Chiefs by 10 as well. Okay. Broncos got to play Green Bay this week. Then, listen to this. You got to play Mahomes, and then you got to play Josh Allen. So why on earth, if you're Sean Payton and you're going, I have a chance at Caleb Williams, would you even try to compete against Green Bay this week and get a win on your scoreboard for no reason?
And to further your point, I think they're the only team that's sitting at 0 or 1 win right now who should think that way, right? Yeah. That's the only team with the head coach who definitely will be the head coach next season. They could not win another game. He's still going to be a head coach next season. He wants to separate himself from Russ. I mean, I think I laid this out last week is what I was thinking. Yeah, you want to put it all on Russ, put it all on that old regime. Any one of these other teams that only have 1 win, I think they want to see more wins out of their team. I mean, if you're the Bears and Justin Fields, you already made your choice that it's Fields, right? You had a chance to try to deal him this year. And they didn't, right? So they just want to see return on that investment. They aren't trying to tank for sure. The Giants, I think they would sell their souls for a couple of wins right now and prove that Danny Dimes is still that guy, even though he definitely isn't. And the team that's 0-6, the main roadblock in the way for that number 1 pick as it stands for the Broncos, that's the Panthers. And I think with Bryce Young, it's the same sort of thing as we're saying with Fields. They've made their investment. They want to win games. That's not to say it's going to be easy, but I don't think they go the whole season without winning. I think they probably win, at least 2. So I think the Broncos fall into last place. And I agree with you, Daps.
So where are you betting here, Daps?
I'm just going to go under because
hey, look at that.
I don't trust either of these teams. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like both bets here. Packers money line and under. Like I might put money on both those things. But the Packers are just bad enough to where I'd rather bet under if I had to bet one. Next up, we got Chargers at Chiefs. AFC West matchup. Chiefs are 5.5 point favorites here. Money lines are plus 205 for the Chargers, minus 250 for the Chiefs. Over under on this game is 50 points. Daps, what do you like here?
I got it. My instinct immediately goes Chiefs. But there's a couple teams in this league that I don't know if we've talked about this already, but they're so inconsistent with their play. And I hate betting on whether it's betting on them or against them in any game just because of the inconsistency. Those teams for me are the Cowboys, always playing inconsistent. The Titans, I don't understand. Every year they're like 3-3, 5-5, 6-6. They're always keeping it even. They beat teams they're not supposed to beat. I hate betting on Titans games. The Chargers are another one of those teams that they're every game, like they show up yesterday, they score on the first drive with 10 minutes left in the first quarter, they're up 7-0. They don't score again. They don't score a touchdown again until the fourth quarter. And I don't get it. I understand the Cowboys have a good defense, one of the best, but if you score 7 on the first drive with ease, something in my mind goes, there's something wrong with the coaching, right? Because they're not calling the right plays for Herbert. I was actually at the game, and it was just I didn't understand what was going on. They had the play they scored on to Everett. I don't know if you guys watched the game last night, but it was like the easiest score ever. They faked a run. It was a play action, and he was wide open. And I'm going, you don't have a play like this on every drive. I don't get it. You must be calling runs when you should be calling passes. You're calling passes when you should be calling runs. Like, you're just not being coached well, especially when you have Justin Herbert, who some of the things he's done in his young career have really, really impressed me. So I'm going to have to go with the points. I have to take the points in this situation because the Chiefs should win at home. But if the Chargers do win or keep it close, I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take Chargers plus 5.5.
Yeah. Okay. So that's funny because I was going to say, oh, you're taking Chargers plus. Oh, interesting. Okay. That's true. You do like doing that thing where if you're split on a game, you like to take the points.
Wait, so what was that officially? The points there, Daps? You want the over?
Yep. So you want?
No, I'm sorry. I'm taking the Chargers plus 5.5.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Interesting. So I was just gonna say, call me crazy with a 50-point over under, but I kind of like the over on this game. Like 25 points each. I'm like, we're talking about a Chargers team. They put up 17 on Monday night against the Cowboys, but other than that, we're talking about a Chargers team that puts up 30 and a Chiefs team that puts up whatever they need to put up to win a game. So I kind of like over 50 points here. If I was going to do another thing, it'd be the boring thing, and it would be the Chiefs money line.
Yeah, I mean, another interesting one. We're covering the whole spectrum here. I like what you laid out there, Daps, and then John. I even more agree with what you're saying. It is crazy to say that this game's going to hit a 50-point over. I think it has a high likelihood, but I am worried about the Chargers being that team that doesn't show up. Yeah. And for that reason, I'm going to go the other way. We got this game fully covered. I'm going to take the spread actually on the Chiefs. 5.5 points is nothing if they're cooking, I mean, that is just peanuts to them. And the Chargers, if they falter, then this is an easy, this is a swish, right? And even if they make a game out of it, there's still a good chance the Chiefs cover because I mean, their games are not always decided by field goals and whatnot. I mean, they might as well just drive down the field. And if you're on the 30-yard line and you have a minute left, they're not a team that's going to be like, hey, let's run the ball 2-3 times and then kick a field goal. They're like, why would we ever stop throwing the ball with Patrick Mahomes? Like, have you seen what it's probably a higher likelihood that you score a touchdown throwing to Kelsey than your field goal kicker makes a field goal even, So when you have that combination, I'm going to bet on the Chiefs all day. It's under a touchdown. So that might as well be a point.
All right. Next up, we got the game of the week, in my opinion. Dolphins at Eagles. Eagles 2.5-point favorites at home, coming off of a loss they probably shouldn't have lost to the Jets. Money line on this is plus 122 for the Eagles. Plus 122 for the Dolphins, minus 145 for the Eagles. Over under on this game at 52. Casey, what do you like here?
Yeah. Okay. This one, I mean, this is a fun one, right? This is like immovable object meets unstoppable force, basically, right? That Dolphins offense can go. The Eagles defense can stop just about anything.
Yeah.
But we're at a weird point here. The Eagles coming off a loss, how's that going to impact it? I don't even like to view through that lens because I can see a narrative for the bounce back. I can see a narrative for this is like how they go on a losing streak. I don't know. I think I'm going to take the coward's way out on this one. If I were forced to bet straight up, or I guess anything, I would take the Dolphins with the spread. But this feels like a game where the over is put so high because of a team like the Dolphins, and the Eagles can put up points too. But I think the Eagles know that if they're going to win this game, they have to stop.
They got to grind
the
it
Dolphins offense. So the game script should go, no matter who's winning. The Eagles are trying to slow the game down.
Yeah.
For that reason, I wrote the wrong word, and I'm actually taking the under in this game. I would say that I would like the Dolphins to cover the spread as my next bet, though, the secondary bet.
Daps, to you, what do you like?
I like the over 52. The Dolphins are currently leading the league in yards per game at 498. The team behind them in second at 395 yards per game is the Eagles. The Dolphins have the 7th worst defense in the league in terms of points allowed. And part of that is most likely because they're going up by so much.
Yeah.
But the only way that this over doesn't hit in my mind is if it rains in Philly or weather affects the game.
Yeah. I like the Dolphins with the points. So give me the Dolphins on the spread. Give me the 2.5 points. I don't know that I'd get in on this action, but if I had to, that's where I'd go.
Feels like this is a really exciting game, but it is hard to get in this action.
Yeah.
The lines are put.
The book kind of has this one right where it's like, I don't love anything here.
Yeah, I think they're going to make a lot of money on Sunday night because people will want to bet on such an exciting game.
Exactly. All right, Casey, I'll let you do this one first. We got 49ers versus Vikings Monday night. 7-point and 49ers 7-point favorites. Money line is minus 335 for the Niners, plus 260 or 250. Plus 260 for the Vikings. Over under on this is 44. Casey, what do you like?
Last week on the Niners, I got exposed. I'm not going to say they got exposed. I'm not going to talk about my team like that, but I got exposed betting on them and so carelessly. I am going to.
I mean, I put a lot on the Niners last week too.
I am going to take them here, but I'm going to stay on that like coward's way out type of thing. I don't want the points here, even though I think they will beat it. I need this just to be a get right game for the team. I don't know that I'd actually recommend betting this one. I think I would steer away from it, especially if you're a fan like me. You're just kind of tilting all over the place. Maybe there's a better bet that you guys can show me here, but as of right now, I think the Niners win this game, regardless of whether Debo and CMC suit up. Just a matter of by how much. And for that reason, I'm just gonna hope they eke out the win here against the Vikings, who even knows what they're doing.
Let me weigh in on the reasons not to bet this game. So I would not, but I mean, I'm going to say a bet, but here's the reasons not to bet this game. The Vikings lose games for sure, and the Niners will probably beat them. This year, the Vikings have not lost by more than a score. So a 7-point spread is not great. That said, here's the counter to that argument. We got primetime Kirk Cousins.
I didn't even think of that.
He is awful in primetime historically, and this is a Monday night game. So on the one hand, they never lose by more than a score. On the other hand, he's awful in primetime. Which way is it going to go? That's why you don't bet a game like this. None of the money lines are attractive enough to where you went 49ers money line. Yeah, the 49ers are probably going to win. A minus 335 money line, it just feels really risky to bet it. You know what I mean? So I probably wouldn't if I were anyone out there. And then look at the over under. I feel like they just the book nailed the over under here in a way that I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably exactly what it's going to be. 44 points. So I don't like anything here. If I got to go with something, I'm going to go with primetime Kirk lets me down and the 49ers. I'm going to take the 49ers on the money line with you. And that way, if I lose this bet, then the Vikings beat the Niners and I win, because I like the Vikings. Daps, what do you like here?
I like the over 44. I think the Niners are going to do what they do like they always do. They're going to score probably close to 30 points, but also whether
the Vikings are going to score 14?
Definitely going to score. I just think the Niners are going to go up. The Vikings are going to have to throw the ball. Kirk can throw the ball. He might throw a pick six, right? And then everything can still happen, right? That we're talking about. Kirk shows up, does this Kirk thing, throws a pick six. But I see a lot of points being scored. Remember, we're inside a dome. Purdy didn't look good last week, but guess what? It was raining. Brandon Ayuk dropped a 70-yard bomb. So I think Ayuk's going to look just fine. Or excuse me, I think Purdy's going to look just fine. Even if Debo doesn't play, you have Kittle and you have Debo. And even I think is it Godwin?
The latest
Goodwin?
The latest I've heard is that it looks like Debo's going to be okay, and CMC never lets anybody know anything. So we don't know what's going on with CMC. But from what I've heard, I mean, and this is casual, but it seems like Debo is not going to be too serious. So I think he'll probably play. So even if CMC doesn't play, that's not great. He's definitely a big corner piece of the offense. But I think if you've got Debo and everything else, you're probably okay.
Yeah. I like that over 44.
All right. Well, that's our time for today. We were going to maybe get into power rankings if we had time, but I think we're at it. That's a good way, hit the bets get into every matchup, get into every team. I like it. If you are listening on an audio platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Spotify, or anything like that, please rate the show 5 stars. Please review
5 stars.
Yeah, give us 5 stars, not 5 stars. If you give me 5 stars, I don't want them. I want the stores.
Macy's, J.C. Penney, Sears. Okay.
Put them in your review. Tell me which stores you're giving me. Give us 5 stars. Give us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Most importantly, subscribe to the newsletter. I think we linked that up in the description. Newsletter is where we kind of publish our final, we hit this show on usually Wednesday, or we publish a show. We talk about this on Tuesday. We usually publish a show on Wednesday, and our newsletter hits on Thursday. So that's kind of like the final thing, before the week goes out. Or before the week starts. So definitely subscribe to the newsletter for like sort of our final thoughts for the week.
Yeah. Updated betting lines, things like that. Yep,
for sure. Cool. I'm John, Triple Cross John on IG and TikTok. Casey at Niners Fan Man, Niners_Fan Man on Twitter and IG, and Daps. I think it's at Daps Sports on all platforms, right?
Yes, sir.
At Daps Sports. Also, check them out on TikTok. Lots of cool sports cards, memorabilia, stuff like that. If you are into things like that, definitely watch their lives. They're live basically 24/7 on TikTok. So go check out Daps on TikTok. And that's the pod. Thanks, guys.
Sayonara.